Welcome back, Yemi.
Okay, so we've seen a lot of surge in kidnappings, killings, and different places you find different crime stories. Like yesterday, there was a story that broke around 5 people being killed in Kaduna, and a lawmaker
Being kidnapped.
was at. So there's been a lot of concerns around this, and people are still wondering. The government is trying to do his best, but we still can't see it. It doesn't look like, these things, the rate continues to grow. Why is this so? We have different issues in South Africa. We have Nigerians being killed. We have a lot of issues going on in Nigeria. How do we address some of these issues? We'll look into security. We'll look into, the partial border closure in, around the country. But to help us do that, we have in the studio a security expert, Mr. Oladeyinde Areyo. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
We also have another security expert, Mr. Tubosun Abolariwa. Good to have you here. He's in Abuja. And we have Mr. Dakpo Akioshun, a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Okay, I'm sure you all have seen in the past months and recently now what has happened in terms of security in the country. Why do you think, Mr. Areyo, we are still where we are, despite all of the talks around this, despite all of the efforts?
Thank you very much. It's very painful because yesterday I was looking at Nigeria as an investment. And I remember, it occurred to me that we had been spending a huge part of our income on security. Unfortunately, it's money going down the drain. Why? Life is becoming increasingly unsafe and insecure everywhere. Nowhere is exempted. And you begin to wonder why. Is it that the agents of security who should ensure that we are safe and secure are on vacation, or they've taken a complete leave? Or is it still the same old story of not being well equipped or what? But the larger picture that got to me is that every indice of development, of progress and growth, they have gone down south and they are still going further, which means that more people are jobless, especially the youth brackets, filled with trained graduates, professionals. Number two, you see there's a disconnect between the political structure and the people, leaving the people increasingly impoverished and the political class enriched. You won't want to remain a poor person anyhow. So there's an urge for everybody to make it, as they say. And in doing that, they have resorted to all manner of illegalities, illicit, unreasonable things. I've been asking, how does a human head translate to dollar or naira? Because they keep people now and they say it's for ritual killing. Nobody has been able to prove it to me or to show me. And then when you hear of banditry, like the one in Kaduna yesterday, you must want to know, why did they do this? Because it just came to a place, started killing people mindlessly. And after, they didn't take anything. They didn't come to steal things. It was as if some gods are asking them, I need blood, go and kill for me. Again, the issue of kidnapping. There was a time here that we stemmed the tide of kidnapping using technology. How? There was a collaboration between the telecom companies and the concerned security operatives. Any moment they make calls, they're able to identify and isolate their location. That way, a lot of them are apprehended. But you see, we now look at the judicial angle, where somebody who was arrested, taken to court, was given a bail, only to go back more vicious than before, more bold and courage now. Okay, that after all, if they pick me again, I'll get my bail. So all of these things make the picture very sad. So many people are running away from Nigeria, whether you like it or not. They are running away. They just think that anywhere will be better than Nigeria, and it's sad. So I don't now know what else there is to say that we have not said. But the question again is, who is listening?
Okay, let me take this to Abuja. Mr. Tumbosun Abolariwa, he has laid out, some of the factors that may be contributing to what we have now. He's asking the questions: are, service chiefs, are they on leave or, completely not absent? What do you think, in your estimation, has brought us to where we are?
Thank you very much. My colleague across the studio over there has already highlighted one of the problems. And one of the major problems we have is the issue of disconnect between the people and the government agencies. And I've always emphasized on that. There's no way you create a bakery if there is no market for the pastries you are going to create in that. And this seems to be prolonged and creating vacuums which criminal elements are beginning to fill in. Some of the killings we have in the country are baseless. You can't really explain why some people are being killed or why some people are killing. And I still strongly feel that just like we have the theater in the military, where they manage stage and every stage manage the act of war, I think it is time for us we consultants, to try and come together to actually create a theater for solution to some of this problem. While saying that, it is also important that we have listening government. I'm not accusing the government of not listening, but I believe that they can listen to us more. The security problem we have in Nigeria is not only peculiar to Nigeria, it is happening in other parts of the world, and I could see that they are preferring solution to it. They are listening to their own people, and they are able to bring some of this problem to a near close or near end. And I think what we need to do in Nigeria now is to try and create a connection between the government, service chief, service provider, and the people. And we need to give more power to the people. Currently, you will check around your house, the amount of money we are spending in our own home to protect ourselves by putting a metal gate, metal fence, electric fencing around our houses, imported doors. All the doors we make in Nigeria is no longer good enough to secure us. So the rest of the world where technology is advancing are actually benefiting from our security problem, which is very, very sad. So America fencing cable are making a lot of billions of dollars by exporting that to Nigeria, while ordinary people are buying it to secure themselves.
Okay, Mr.
If we can
if I
sit
may
down,
interrupt you briefly, we will just take a moment. When we'll come back, you'll continue from where we had to butt in and talk about how the technologically advanced areas are benefiting from Nigeria's security situation. We'll be back in a moment. Please don't go away. Welcome back. We're still continuing the conversation around the state of the polity, and we were talking about security situation. Mr. Olatunbosun, you were talking about how the technologically advanced areas around the world are benefiting from Nigeria's security situation. Can you tidy up on that, please?
Okay, then I'm just trying to say that starting from the gate of your home or the gate of your estate down to your door, down to the metal cable criminal deterrent you are putting around your fence, down to your alarm, down to your CCTV are not produced in Nigeria. And we are spending a lot of money on that now as household to make sure that our lives and properties are safe. And I really think that insecurity in Nigeria is becoming a business benefit to the rest of the world where all these things are being produced. And I think rather than looking outward, I'm not talking to the government alone now, I'm talking to the residents, citizens of Nigeria, that it is time for us to start looking inward. The state cannot continue to go high. If you are able to protect yourself in the house, the road is no longer safe. Kidnappers are beginning to pick us up on the road, People are just being killed for no reason. And I think it is time for us to come together as a country and start looking inward for how we can bring a lasting solution to issues surrounding insecurity and threat to lives and properties.
Okay. Mr. Akinshun, now he's talked about the situation, how the different parts of the world seem to be benefiting from the situation in Nigeria. But you're a legal practitioner. And Mr. Ario, when he was talking, said something about how someone who was arrested for a crime, like a kidnapping situation, is granted bail. And then after a while, he's released. That emboldens that person, and the person goes ahead to be more vicious than he was before. Tell us, what do you think from the legal point of view? Is that what it should be?
Certainly not. And as I mentioned earlier, the first problem is, why are we getting into crimes? Why are the youth becoming more violent? And why is crime paying off? Definitely, if there is a crime and there's no punishment for it, you will go back and do more. But the reason why you went into it in the first instance is the economy. A lot of people blame the economy. But the truth is that a lot of the youth as well today want to become rich without passing through the face. Everybody who gets rich properly, there's a face. But in Nigeria, with the advent of get rich quick, it doesn't matter what I do. That's why last week I was in Abuja and EFCC arrested over 70 students from a university in Ado-Ekiti in Ondo State, Ekiti State, for internet fraud. These are people who are young children who are supposed to be in school studying. But all they're now engaging is internet fraud because they want to make money. They want to use iPhone 10. And the reasons why they start this thing is so myopic, but it has become a larger issue. The judiciary is inundated. The prisons are filled with awaiting trial. If you take a guy, I mean, most of these prisons were designed for 300 people. Now you find them holding 3,000 people. The trial process, it has to be by proof. The things are happening so quickly now. Everybody is involved in it because it's such a profitable venture that they're overwhelmed. And we must begin to get the judiciary, first of all, to act quickly. However, even the judiciary is not well motivated. The last time salaries of judges was increased was in year 2000 or so. How do you ask a man who has been on the same salary from 2000 to begin to adjudge on cases the same way he did 10 years ago? A man who joins the judiciary today will earn the same thing as a man who has been there for 15 years. So there has to be a holistic approach, starting from reforming the judiciary. If there's going to be the use of the law to address these things, then the people who are in the judiciary must be properly rewarded. The man who is a judge, it was shown recently when a high court judge was retiring and they were attacking him right in front of the court premises that they refused to let him in. There's no respect for the judiciary again. You must be able to secure the judges when they're in office and after they leave office. They must be assured that when I leave office, I have a life. I'm not going to go and start living. I know a judge who left the judiciary in Lagos State several years ago before the reform, who left a house in Ikoyi and moved to a boys' quarters in Falaguru when he left the office. Those kind of things must be sorted out. And the man knows that when I take this job, I'm giving my life to it and I'm going to be protected for life. One. Secondly, what is the quality of the level of advocacy today? What do you find as lawyers doing? We were going to employ lawyers at a time in our office, and we interviewed about 36 lawyers. We could not get 3 good lawyers. The level of advocacy. And I said to some senior advocates yesterday when I was at the airport when we met, I said, several years ago we had advocacy, the likes of G.O.K. Ajayi, F.R.A. Williams, Shufola. You went to court and you were excited by the level of advocacy. People studied hard to come to court. Today, internet has made it very easy. They just come and say, I adopt whatever I have written down. But the beauty of it is that men have not really sat down to read and produce and argue their cases. And why is that? Because everybody's just interested in the quick rewards. We're not as detailed as we used to be. And care has to be taken. Now, going back to the youths that are engaged in this. I was kidnapped a few years ago by some young men in the north. I was coming from Benue. I was going to Abuja. I was kidnapped somewhere in Nasarawa State by young boys who, I mean, ordinarily should be in school. But they were on the streets, wild and free. They kept me for over 12 hours. Why? There's so much drugs available. all those guys are so high. And so even when they don't get the drugs to buy now, they smoke mats, they smoke wee-wee. And what is causing? And when they're high on anything, they're not responsible for their work.
I'm happy you mentioned this because I was just thinking, looking at those people that kidnapped you, did you get a sense that they feel that they can be caught anytime?
They didn't even care. They didn't understand whether they get caught or not. All they were interested in was that we need the money now for the drugs. Give us money. I mean, it got so bad that even the spare tire in our negotiation, the spare tire for the car I was driving, they took it as part payment. Because I ran out of cash. I couldn't give them cash again. It's okay, the tire of the car, we'll go and sell it. And you can imagine. And so they do understand. And it's not a large amount of money they were looking for. It was just the fact that, look, if my life was not worth more than the tire of a car to them, you can imagine what has brought about this, because they don't have a future for themselves. They're not educated. They don't have any. And what happened to technical training? Even if you cannot get formal education, many of them are not even willing to learn a trade. And this has been caused by years of oppression. You can see, I mean, all these boys can do now is ride motorcycle. And then even when they ride the motorcycles, they don't even understand traffic regulations. One ran into my car in Lekki some years ago, and all of them gathered around me to mob me. Because he ran into the back of my car. But because he fell, I was going to be attacked again. If it was not for the quick intervention of the police, the decision would have gotten ugly.
But, Mr. Rio, this picture is looking somewhat as though it is the miscreants are the only ones who are involved in this heinous situation. But there are some others who've told their experiences of the people that kidnapped them being quite educated. Yeah. They actually speak well, they carry themselves well, and the planning is quite sophisticated.
Some are so organized that they had helicopters dropping food and supplies for them in their forest locations.
How is that possible? I mean, someone said yesterday that in any security breach that extends for more than 24 hours, the government, not necessarily Nigeria.
That was Sonny Abacha that said that.
He was quoting a former head of state. He said the government has an idea of the situation.
Yeah. Well, I'll take you back to President Jonathan, when at the time he boldly declared that Boko Haram had infiltrated his government. We all thought it was a joke. You know, I mean, somehow the man had like he said, that he was the most abused president in the world. So anything the man said then, nobody took it to be very serious. Now, in the same way, when you see police arresting criminals and then they display the arms and ammunition seized from them, those things look so old and fit for the museum. Whereas those who have been kidnapped, the real victims, when they come out, they tell you that those who kidnapped them have solid current weapons. Okay, so how do you now connect the two together? Then number two, I said it earlier, that the amount of money that government now allocates to security challenges supersedes any other thing. And for as long as this continues, we will never enjoy any measure of growth or development.
Let me quickly add this. Festus Akiboyewa is saying that what we need urgently in Nigeria is institutional reform. And so we have a new Minister of Defense, we have a new Minister of Interior, we have a Minister of Police Affairs. What would you be telling them right now? And the service chiefs, they're still there.
You see, I've started taking the new look at Nigeria. Why? Because when you say we have new ministers and all of that, what did they bring to the table? And now, what is the agenda? What is their focal point? Okay? No, wait. Just wait. Then, at the bottom of all of this is the loss of value. Okay? Loss of value, which will now make sure that except money, nothing else matters. So much that even in family meetings, when you gather with all your PhD, MBA, MSc, a younger member of the family who didn't pass CUSAT, but is loaded, will come and then they ask you to keep quiet, let him talk. You know, nobody would ask questions. A student was arrested and they found cash of 60 million naira in his room, a room apartment. Okay? Now, when you leave that, the organs, which by nature,
Before you continue with that,
Yeah.
that means if you say in family gatherings, even if you have
To that
PhD,
level.
so does it mean that the society itself we need to do something?
oh no, that's very basic. Especially, I was talking about, the
And
family is
where
the
we place
smallest
our
level,
values.
whereby we all emerge from there. So the first trainings were received at home, the father, mother, sisters, and all of that. For those of us who grew up as community children, you know what I mean? Whereby if you misbehave anywhere around your area, the next adult will punish you. Not like now, when even teachers cannot punish students in their classroom. Okay? Gradually, we begin to lose all of these things. And then religion came in. Churches, mosques, different groups came up. We were beginning to see them as the moral fabric of the society and the pillars that will sustain and move us out of the abyss. But what happened? You now see a man earning less than 5,000 naira per month donating a 20 naira generator to a church, and the church accepting it. And these things continue like that until we are where we are today. My brother was saying something that all they do now is to ride a motorcycle. And when they even finish riding the motorcycle, instead of saving the little that they have, they go and bet. They go and play Kalo Kalo. Okay? You need to walk into any of the centers. You see those people, how smelly, how dirty, and unkempt they are. These are places where they meet, they mingle, and then they begin to connect and begin to plan crime. Because the reward that they expected from all these things is not forthcoming. So, and they still want better life for themselves. So we really need to do serious reform, starting from the family. And I would say starting from individuals. The moment you yourself, you are a criminal, you have no moral standing to begin to now correct people. Again, in families today, the father leaves the house 5 a.m. to go and look for what to eat. The mother too will leave. They probably won't come back until 10 p.m., especially in urban centers, leaving the children at the mercy of maids and some old nannies who don't even care about the children. Most people cannot write a page on their children because they don't know them. They remain estranged. And of course, we have increasing cases of broken marriages, and you see single mothers living alone with their children, fathers, and all of that. So all of these things, we have to go back, really, really go back. And that is where I begin to advocate for acculturation, as it was. All those values that our parents held very dearly, we must begin to go back to them.
Okay, so let's touch on setting agenda for this, security, those that should be in charge of our security.
For instance, if I would take the Attorney General, for instance, right? He has identified specific things about judiciary and all of that. We are a country of no consequence. What do I mean? Elsewhere, they say if you can do the crime, you will do the time. But here, people do dastard things, terrible things, and then they escape. So a man heading our law organ now should begin to now say, okay, how do we get this thing straightened out? Who deserves bail? And who deserves quick punishment? A situation where a case will linger for years doesn't help. And as he said, they should better the laws of the judges. If I'm a judge and I'm not sure that if I give a judgment as it is, okay, that I have to give a judgment whereby I can end my life. You know what that means? It will turn our judges to weaklings who don't have the liver to do real justice. Of course, there will be judgment, but justice will be denied. Okay? Then, of course, the role of money over and around all of us has to be de-emphasized.
Okay.
It's important.
All right. Let's get to Mr. Abolarinwa. Mr. Abolarinwa, what should we be doing now in terms of setting agenda for those who have come into office, the ministers that have just come into office and all of that?
All right, then. Thank you very much. The Minister for Police Affairs and the Minister for Interiors has a lot of role to play in setting a good and standard reform for the Nigerian police force. The National Orientation Agency, the Director General too, has a lot of role to play in order to buttress or enhance what my colleague across the studio has just said. There is the home value, which is affecting the society, and anything that is starting from home is also affecting the work as well. So the police reform, the last one, we need to really sit down and find out what happened to it, where did we go wrong, and the Minister for Police Affairs and the Minister for Interior now and the presidency can now come together, get reform champions to create a good blueprint by which we can reform the Nigerian police force. Another thing I also want to appeal to the federal government is that the police needs training and capacity building. It's not enough to select a minister, but it is enough to ensure that whatever it needs for police to carry out their jobs needs to be provided for them. Their vehicles needs to be fueled, their budget needs to be taken care of in such a way that it will accommodate the task ahead of them. If we are not doing this, we may find ourselves back in square one in another 5 years' time, a situation which I pray that we're not going to find ourselves with the current situation staring at us in the face.
Mr. Akiotu, let me just read this out. Fred Edore says, sometime past, some soldiers protested that serving officers sabotaged them against Boko Haram. Today we have seen how the military killed policemen to free a kidnapped suspect. This shows some collaboration in the different arms of the security agencies with the bandits or the criminals, as the case may be. What should we be doing as we wind up?
Without a doubt, if there's no collaboration between the security agencies and criminals, crime will not thrive. But I would suggest 4 ways, 4 things that I believe are important to moving forward as a country. First of all, as I said earlier, reforming and rewarding the judiciary. Judges should be adequately rewarded so that there's less incentive for corruption. Secondly, the police should be reformed. There's been a lot of talk about local policing. I believe the Nigerian police has started a move towards it. And the first way to do it is by engaging people who live in the locality. All these jobless people, let's engage them into the police and train them. It's not going to be a rush training, but they need to be reindoctrinated. Their minds have to be changed so that they become useful for the state as against being used against the state. So that will help local policing. Engage him, if he lives in Yaba and grew up in Yaba, engage him as a local policeman in Yaba. Don't transfer him to Abuja. Let him work in that area. He knows the area, he knows the terrain. He'll be more useful for the police in that area than taking him where he doesn't speak the language. Thirdly, and the state's economy is a problem. The states have to seriously look at revenue generation and encouraging local entrepreneurs. We talk about taxation and things which stifle ease of doing business. We have to find a way that will encourage local businesses to grow. Give incentives. I was in the UK recently, and I saw that those who were using electric cars are given tax rebates so as to encourage more people to stop using fuel. We have to find creative ways. The whole budget of Nigeria is about $2 billion when you look at it. Nigeria has 200 million people. Brazil has 210 million people. The budget of Brazil is 10 times more than what we as a nation are budgeting. And when you look at the statistics, we don't even have enough money to go around. So we have to find a way of deepening the economy and raising more money.
Thank you.
And lastly,
we really have to
Let me back him up. We don't have enough money to run. The little that we have, half or more gets stolen.
yes.
We really have to go now. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. I know that this is a conversation that is going to continue and until we get the desired result. Thank you for coming on this morning. Our guest in our Abuja studios, the security expert, Mr. Tumbosun Abolariwa, and the guest here in Lagos, another security expert, Mr. Oladeinde Ariyo, and the legal practitioner, Dapo Akiosho. Thank you for coming on this morning. We'll take a quick break and Sunrise will be back in a moment. Just stay with us.